Another evening drawing in, Holmes. The gas lamps flicker beyond the panes, and the fire here in our old rooms offers a welcome comfort. It feels a world away from the subject of my latest chronicle for the Strand, that rather grim affair I titled The Case of the Mechanical Saboteur, up in Manchester. I trust the editors found the account satisfactory.
Satisfactory enough, Watson, though your narratives always favor the human drama over the strictly deductive thread. Still, Manchester, yes, a singular investigation. I recall the city vividly, a miasma of coal smoke, the perpetual clangor of machinery, yet beneath that industrial grime lay a problem of quite exceptional intellectual refinement.
Indeed, the whole business felt so emblematic of these modern times, didn't it? This relentless pace of invention, the second industrial revolution transforming the very fabric of life, often with scant regard for those caught in its gears. The air itself seemed thick with both progress and resentment.
Precisely, a fascinating, if rather soot-stained milieu. The true challenge lay not merely in the mechanics of the sabotage itself, but in navigating the complex social ferment surrounding that revolutionary loom. A puzzle layered in societal tension as much as physical evidence.
It began, as so many complex affairs do, with a telegram. I recall Inspector Hardcastle's urgent message from Manchester, speaking of unprecedented industrial sabotage at the Arkwright mill. Quite the unsettling summons it was.
Unsettling and immediately intriguing. Hardcastle's initial briefing described a situation bordering on hysteria. A revolutionary machine, Watson, the cornerstone of the mill's future, repeatedly crippled despite their best efforts at security.
That automated power loom, a true behemoth of iron and ingenuity. I endeavored to capture it in my chronicle, the dizzying speed of the shuttle, the almost hypnotic interplay of the warp and weft threads. It promised efficiency, certainly, but one could immediately sense the disruption it represented.
A disruption felt most acutely by the skilled mill hands whose craft it threatened to render obsolete. The immediate suspicion, naturally, fell upon them. Were we witnessing a resurgence of Luddite sentiment, a desperate lashing out against the relentless march of mechanization?
Indeed, the very air around the Arkwright mill seemed thick with that tension. I described it, I believe, as a stark and imposing fortress of industry, casting long, grim shadows. One felt the weight of resentment emanating from the nearby workers' cottages.
And yet therein lay the initial paradox. A fortress, as you say, purportedly well guarded. Hardcastle spoke of patrols, of locked access points. Still, the sabotage persisted. Furthermore, not all the damage bore the hallmarks of crude vandalism. Some interventions were remarkably precise, a specific gear carefully fractured, a critical tension spring expertly disabled. This curious contrast between the supposed security and the meticulous nature of certain acts, that was the first truly captivating thread in the tangle.
And speaking of the complexities on the ground, Holmes, it gives me great pleasure to say we are joined this evening by the very officer who navigated that difficult terrain. Inspector Hardcastle, welcome. It's splendid to have you here by our fire.
Dr. Watson, Mr. Holmes, thank you for the invitation. It's certainly a more peaceful setting than the Arkwright mill premises were during that period. Manchester was on edge.
On edge, Inspector, a rather mild description if memory serves. Volatile, I should have thought. A powder keg awaiting a spark.
Indeed, Mr. Holmes, there was a palpable tension, not just within the mill walls, but across the city. You could feel the resentment simmering, skilled workers seeing their livelihoods threatened by automation. The air itself felt thick with rumor and discontent.
One recalls the faces, the genuine hardship. It wasn't mere rabble-rousing. I endeavored to capture some of that human cost in my account, thinking of individuals like Bessie Turner, for instance, a woman of considerable intelligence and skill, representing so many whose craft was suddenly devalued.
Precisely, Dr. Watson. Miss Turner embodied that intelligence. It highlighted the difficulty for us in policing the matter, Was this simply an eruption of understandable worker frustration, spilling over into vandalism? Or was it something more calculated, more targeted, merely using the industrial dispute as cover?
The eternal conundrum in such affairs, distinguishing the howl of the crowd from the whisper of the conspirator.
It required a different approach. Managing public order during strikes or protests is one aspect of our duties. Investigating deliberate, precise sabotage, a crime aimed squarely at the technology itself, demands another skill set entirely. Initially, the lines were blurred.
And yet, Inspector, your reports and handling of the investigation demonstrated remarkable clarity amidst that fog. Your methodical approach, separating the threads of general unrest from the specific criminal acts, was truly commendable, particularly given the pressures of such a challenging jurisdiction.
One simply tries to follow the evidence where it leads, Dr. Watson, however complex the path. And in Manchester, during that time, the paths were certainly labyrinthine.
But beyond the immediate social friction, Watson, the asterisk mechanism itself. That was a thing of singular intellectual beauty. A veritable symphony of levers, cams, precisely timed relays, and integrated logic chains. Quite revolutionary for its time.
Indeed, Holmes. I recall you spent the better part of an afternoon simply observing its operation, quite lost in its intricate, almost hypnotic dance. You sketched pages of notes on its potential vulnerabilities, if memory serves.
A truly advanced conception, demonstrating a profound grasp of mechanical engineering and automation. One could almost feel the sheer force of intellect behind it, Professor Fleming's, naturally. A mind of formidable power, though perhaps somewhat blinkered in its intense focus on the purely technical, overlooking the human equation.
Yes, a brilliant, if perhaps naive, man in some respects. Trying to capture the essence of that loom for my readers, Inspector, proved quite the literary challenge. How does one convey such mechanical complexity, the sheer scale and ingenuity, without resorting to dry diagrams or impenetrable jargon? It was a marvel, certainly, but a daunting one to describe adequately.
A marvel causing considerable fear and unrest, Doctor, and the methods employed against it only served to deepen the initial puzzle, making it devilishly hard to profile our saboteur.
Precisely, Inspector. Our rather uncomfortable vigil in the cavernous, darkened mill. Remember the damp chill, Watson? The evidence we gathered from those nocturnal observations pointed in distinctly conflicting directions.
I remember it vividly. The constant, low hum of the machinery even when idle, the shadows playing tricks. And then the discovery of the fresh damage. Some of it seemed almost brutish, wouldn't you say? A heavy wrench crudely taken to a vital gear shaft, a deliberate smashing of exposed components. Pure, blind destruction.
Crude vandalism, yes, born perhaps of untutored frustration or echoing the Luddite fury of a century past. Yet this stood in stark contrast to other incidents we reviewed. The subtle misalignment of a critical sensor, the almost surgical interference with the control mechanism's programming sequence, acts requiring not only a delicate touch, but considerable, intimate understanding of the machine's complex inner workings.
Exactly my point, Mr. Holmes. That perplexing mixture of signals made our initial task incredibly difficult. One moment, evidence suggested angry, displaced mill hands venting their understandable fury. The next, the signs pointed towards something far more calculated, perhaps sophisticated industrial espionage, deliberately hiding behind the smokescreen of general discontent. The methods were so disparate, it clouded the picture entirely, preventing any clear line of inquiry at first. It kept us chasing shadows for far too long.
The true challenge, Watson, lay not merely in what was damaged, but precisely how. The signature left upon the metal, if you will. The method often reveals more than the outcome.
Indeed, a jumble of seemingly contradictory signals, as I recall. Some acts appeared crude, almost desperate.
Precisely, while others bespoke a different hand entirely. A meticulousness in the execution, minute traces the specific manner of a filing, the nature of a residue left behind that spoke volumes more than overt destruction. It is often in these near-invisible details that the path to motive truly lies. The deductive leap comes in linking such microscopic observations to the grander scheme.
And those details were crucial, Mr. Holmes. On the ground, we were awash with competing narratives. Genuine anger from displaced families, certainly. But there was also a persistent undercurrent, whispers of more organized elements at play.
You mentioned intelligence concerning groups like the Clockwork Gang. Was it not, Inspector? Rumors of industrial espionage.
We did receive such intelligence, yes. Their name had surfaced before in connection with industrial secrets. It added another layer of complexity, discerning legitimate worker grievance from those who might cynically exploit the unrest for entirely different, perhaps more mercenary, ends.
The perennial problem, separating the impassioned act from the calculated one. It required a delicate sifting of evidence, connecting the smallest physical fact, the way a lever was forced, the specific tool employed, to the grander possibilities of espionage or targeted sabotage.
Trying to capture that gradual peeling back of layers in my narrative, showing how your focus shifted from the general unrest to those specific, telling marks. That was the central challenge in structuring my account for the reader.
A challenge indeed, Doctor. It reflected the investigation perfectly untangling a knot where every thread seemed deliberately misleading.
As I tried to convey in my concluding chapter of the account, Inspector, the entire affair serves as a potent reminder of industrialization's double-edged nature. A truly fascinating, if unsettling, case.
Unsettling is the word, Dr. Progress, as represented by that ingenious loom, rarely arrives without casting long shadows. We saw that starkly in Manchester, the marvel of the machine beside the genuine hardship and anxiety of those whose skills it threatened.
A recurring theme, Inspector. The relentless march of invention demands adaptation, often painful. Yet the ethical considerations, the responsibility accompanying such powerful new technologies, these are complexities that mechanism alone cannot resolve.
Quite so. And amidst the displacement, we also witnessed remarkable resilience, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure and adjust, though the cost remains undeniable.
A cost often borne by those with the fewest resources. It falls to us, Mr. Holmes, to navigate that difficult intersection of innovation and humanity.
Your insights from the ground have been invaluable this evening, Inspector. Thank you sincerely for joining our fireside reflection.
The pleasure was entirely mine, gentlemen. It's always beneficial to revisit these matters with fresh eyes until we meet again.
Inspector.
Farewell. And perhaps next time, Holmes, when the mood strikes, we might delve into that rather singular affair concerning the politician, the lighthouse, and the trained cormorant.